Hello, Bambaji here with another gate overview, and today we are looking at gate 41. Gate 41 is in the root center. It's pointing to its harmonic gate 30, which is in the solar plexus, and together they form the channel of recognition. You can see in the graphic here on the screen that the root center is the brown square at the bottom of the body graph, and you've got that little black line there, and that's pointing up to the solar plexus. In terms of the wheel, gate 41 is sort of at 11 o'clock really. It's up there towards the top of the mandala. And the channel of recognition is a design of focused energy. The polarity to gate 41, its opposition in the wheel, you can see is down there about 5 o'clock, gate 31, which is situated in the throat center, and it's a leadership gate. They are both collective gates, the 31 and the 41, both in the collective, but one is abstract and one is logical. With the sun transiting into gate 41, this marks the beginning of the new solar cycle. So it's time to say Happy New Year. The 41st gate is called the Gate of Contraction and Decrease. And this can seem a bit of a contradiction. It's the start codon, it's the beginning of the human experiential way, and yet it's called contraction. How does that work? The headline above the lines, what would you call it? Well, let's say the headline. It says the limitation of resources, which maximizes development of potential. It's explained in the traditional I Ching through a gardening metaphor. If you are pruning a tree or a bush, or you're deadheading your roses, and what that does is it contracts and decreases what you've got. Your resources are being reduced, whilst at the same time, it's actually encouraging growth. We cut back the garden in wintertime to prepare it for the following season. By cutting back, nothing is lost, because all of the potential of that plant, everything that that plant could possibly be, every twig, every leaf and flower and fruit, it's already there. It's contracted inside, it's held inside as a potential. And this is gate 41. So we have moved out of gate 60 now, the gate of acceptance, the gate of limitation, perhaps leaving behind some of our old limiting beliefs, breaking our old patterns, moving into something new. But we are still in the quarter of mutation, which may seem strange. And I pondered this a lot when I was sort of looking at all of this and exploring the New Year gates, because I wanted to know why gate 41 doesn't take us into the new quarter. Why aren't we now in initiation? And it's because we're still changing and we're still transforming. And of course, we never do stop changing or transforming or mutating. But there's something about this energy, the energy of gate 41, that gives rise to something new. It is, after all, a start codon. And yet, although it's bringing in the new, it is still waiting. It is still rooted in the mutative process. Whatever is coming out of it, which is new, is not here yet. These are all the things I played with. I'd love to know what you play with when you look at gate 41. It is, after all, the gate of fantasy and imagination. So what do you bring to this? What does your imagination bring to you about gate 41? Yeah, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was saying, we were talking about the 41, the whole mutation and that word, and how it can be very uncomfortable for some people, and how we sometimes change it to say transformation or change. And yet mutation is not transformation or change, because that sort of denotes something that is already in existence, and mutation is something new. So this is another reason why we have gate 41 still in mutation, because 41 is the new, and that is the mutation. It's not the transformation or the change. So a start codon, I just wanted to touch on this because it's something we hear about quite a lot around the time of the Rave New Year and Gate 41, and yet it's not always explained. It gets sort of thrown out there as a word that is very impressive, and sometimes it's not easy to really know what it means. And so I just quickly want to say Gate 41 correlates to the start codon of our DNA. And the start codon is akin to a capital letter at the start of every sentence. It's the first piece when it comes to building a protein in a cell. So it's a crucial element. It's part of a process called translation, where the cell makes proteins from genetic information. So you could imagine the start line in a race. Without it, everyone's just wandering around, not really doing anything. There's no focus. So the process can't begin properly. It's essential in getting that whole thing going, something new going. Gate 41 is a fuel because it's in the root center. It's the drive for a new experience. It's the beginning of the human experiential way. And this is the energy that we have to work with at the start of this new solar cycle. It's a bit like being on the motorway and there's this sort of big flashing gantry above the road saying, slow down, new experience ahead, brace yourself. And it's kind of it's kind of a big deal, really. The key to experience is that it's not about having an expectation, because as soon as we have an expectation, we're bringing in the energy that we've just left. We're bringing in the energy of limitation. We're limiting the experience to fit into our idea of what it should look like. And then we end up walking around with blinkers on, and we don't actually see all the other stuff that life is bringing in because we're focused on what we're expecting to see. Gate 41 is pushing us to have a new experience, which ultimately will bring us into emotion. Because at the other end of the channel, gate 30, we have that emotional gate. It is in the solar plexus. And because we always want what we don't have, we always want what's on the other side of the gate. And especially if we don't have it, the 41 is always looking to gate 30. It's always looking to have an emotional response to its experience, because that's part of what makes it real for gate 41. It is driving towards the experience, and it's collective in nature. So it has that desire to interact with others and to share with them. And it's doing it in this sense through feelings. It's a gate that has a rich imagination. It's the gate of fantasy. It's the gate of daydreaming. Gate 41 holds the potential for every experience that is possible. It's all held here in this start codon. And it's really important that it only releases one experience at a time. Otherwise, we stand the risk of becoming overwhelmed. And because the 41 points up at the solar plexus and the emotional wave, that's really not something that you want to get into overwhelm with. There needs to be a kind of gentleness or a filter around this process as it makes its way through, so that the wave can run its course. Because the whole of the experiential process operates through the emotional system, through the emotional wave, the emotional motor. See, it's not an emotional awareness here. It's not either mental or body awareness. And the solar plexus is not yet a spiritual awareness, not for a couple more years. So you could ask yourself a question if you felt like you wanted to do this. Are you pushing to have a new experience? This could be a valid contemplation, because the fact that we've just come into the energy of the new year, it doesn't mean we have to stop exploring the energy of these gates. So I will ask you, I could invite you into a contemplation here, if it is correct for you to take this on. Are you pushing for a new experience? Are you prepared to take on the challenge of waiting? More waiting? No, surely not. But why not? Why not take on another challenge here if you're up for it? Just to wait for a little bit longer. Yes, we are in the energy of the new, but that doesn't mean we have to jump on something just for the sake of it, or jump on someone, because this is also the gate of sexual fantasy. But we can still wait for whatever is coming to us naturally. We can be still, and we can always use our strategy and authority to make sure that the energy is available for whatever new experience we want to take on. This is a projector gate. We need to be invited into our new experiences. And this is what our own authority, of course, is saying. This is what it's for in our making decisions. And sometimes when we come into human design, we might say, why do we need something to help us make decisions? I can do it quite well for myself. I've been doing it all these years. But of course we do, because otherwise we go up into our minds and our minds start telling us what to do. But what we're looking at with our decision-making authority, our inner authority for many of us, is that it's about the body saying yes. And it's saying, yes, there is energy for whatever is coming, or not. And of course, the or not is always a possibility because we live in a duality. So there's no energy available for this, in which case, no, thank you. No, I will not take part in this new experience. And the mind is going, what do you mean you're not taking part in this new experience? We've been waiting for this. I'm so bored. Give me something to do. And the body is saying, no, I have no energy for this. So this is one of the huge gifts and lessons, of course, in human design, is listening to our body, doing what our body is telling us we have energy for. Even if we're soundboarding or we're working with our lunar authority, it still is related back to the body and what we have energy for. Because if there's no energy, then we have no life. And if we have no life, if there's nothing, there's no life in this body, then it's not filtering the neutrino stream. And we have no way of informing consciousness of our experiences. The focus of our body, of our inner intelligence, is to make sure that we have enough energy to keep living, to keep having these new experiences, to keep making our way around the wheel again and again, going through all these gates, looking at all of these energies that they bring us, and looking at how they inform our experience and the way that we live our unique life, the way that we meet whatever comes to us according to our design. Every line in the 41st gate has a lifetime learning, an introduction line. It tells us that we are not born knowing how to work with the energies of having a new experience. We have to grow into them. We have to learn about them. And when you look into the lines of this gate, if you follow through with this journey with me, then you will understand why. There is a pressure here. There's a power and a drive. It's a root gate. It's a fuel that drives the human experiential way, the stream of feelings, which is another term for the human experiential way. And it goes from this 41 to the 30, across the solar plexus, and it goes into the 35, the 36, and then the 35 in the throat. This is the stream of feelings. This is the human experiential way. It's not aware. This is something that's quite important to make note of. The human experiential way is not aware. It's purely mechanical. It's part of our evolutionary process. And it's not going to awaken to awareness. It stays purely human. Even when we've had the mutation in 2027 and the solar plexus changes and mutates so that it is an environment where the rave can experience life or be part of the totality. It's that mutation doesn't affect the experiential way. It's still going to be the human experiential way. Gate 41 is the gate where fantasy comes from. All of our fantasy comes from 41. It's that gate of imagination. And of course, then we find the spectrum of all imagination that is possible. Everything goes through the 41. And you can see it when you look at what the adrenal system wants to do with emotion. Those channels between the root and the solar plexus. We have the 19, which flirts with emotion. We have the 39, which teases emotion. And we have the 41 here, which hooks into our emotions, saying, hey, I've got this great fantasy for you. Yeah, do you want to turn it into a feeling? Do you want to come over here? And of course, the 49, the 55, and the 30, all of those opposite ends of the channel, the harmonics there, are all emotional gates. And they all have their own way of dealing with that. All of them having their emotional wave. So it's on, it's off, it's moving through. So the 49 is saying to the flirtatious 19, I accept or reject you. If I accept you, you've got to stop flirting. And the 55 is saying to the teasing 39, if I really accept you teasing me, then I'm going to have to stop being fickle and accept that you're really it. And the 30 gets stung by the feeling in the 41 and gets caught up in the wave of feeling. And there is no way out. It's just the up and the down with this feeling. And it's the clinging fire. Gate 30 is the clinging fire. You burn with the desire for this experience and with the feeling, unless you can get rid of it through having the experience, taking the experience through to its natural conclusion. The 41st gate fuels the potential to recognize. The channel 4130 is the recognition. It's the channel of recognition. Gate 30 is the recognition of feelings, the clinging fire. The fuel gates of the circuit that we have here, the experiential circuit, are the 64 in the head and the 41 here in the root, and they have some similarities. The 41st gate, as we said, contains all the possible range of feelings. And yet, as in the mental process up there in the 64, it is only one feeling which will be of value. There is also a parallel between the 3 channels that connect the root to the solar plexus and the 3 channels that connect the root to the spleen. The channel of judgment, which is 1858, this is a mirror to this feeling stream, the 4130. The focus of this stream is to judge abstractly, you could say, through a single feeling. However, logical judgment, on the other side, it's conditioned by the frequency of the now. And abstract recognition is conditioned by the wave, so there's no truth in the now. Now, it's never immediate, it's always a process. Patience is the great virtue of the emotionally defined. The gate of contraction, the energy, the pressure, the stress, to feel or not to feel. And deeper than that, it's the hunger for the experience. And it's looking at the desire for that experience. This is a really intense channel that we have in the body graph. The stream of feeling as it moves from the 41 into the 30, the 36, and the 35. The abstract experiential process of humanity. It's a manifesting process. The 36, 35 is a manifesting channel. It's an emotional manifesting process. And it's all about experience. The 36th gate, the gate of crisis, is actually the gate of inexperience. The 35 is the gate of experience and progress. And in order for human experience to take place, we begin with all of those possibilities of the human experience that are stored in gate 41. The collective circuit, it lives by Solomon's law, which says that there is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new. It's a law that says this is the way it is, other than when a mutation comes along. And so the 41 is the capacity to create pressure for any experience other than the mutative one. And of course, all of those experiences exist. They're all just possibilities of variations on any experience. So somebody writes the Kama Sutra, which is very much a 41 kind of process, exploring all of the variations possible in the experience that comes under this particular umbrella, in order to create a depth of historical reference about the nature of what it is to be human. It says above the lines, I said to you before, the limitation of resources which maximizes development of potential. This is the whole essence of decrease. The magic of the 41 is the power that it has through holding all of these possibilities, and the power that it has and it retains by releasing only one at a time. And this is really important to be aware of, because it never pressurizes the 30 with all of the experiences at once, with everything that is possible. No, it is very specific. This is why and how the need for experience can become obsessive, because it's one, and then there's always going to be another one. Oh, I want to know what another one is. But it's also the clue here is in the name of the channel, which is recognition, but the sidebar is a design of focused energy. So it's focused on one experience at a time. The whole experiential process, it operates through the emotional system, through the emotional wave. And the 41st gate, it's an adrenal gate, in as much as it is part of the root system. It's not an awareness. And in this case, it's certainly not the wave itself. It is not in the solar plexus. And we will see as we approach the 30th gate, the clinging fire, that clinging fire turns the pressure into the feeling. And it is the feeling that can become obsessive. The feeling in us that we must have an experience, that life is so boring if we're not having an experience, if we're not feeling something. The pressure centers are of enormous importance, like all things, really. But we are basically a sandwich. You might hear this when you come into human design and we look at the centers and we say, oh, the head center and the root center are the pressure centers. We are in a pressure sandwich. But it's true. It's true. We have the mental pressure above and the physical pressure below, and everything else is kind of squished in the middle there. And these pressures rule the nature of the world. If you think about it, you've got format gates come out of this root pressure, and the format gates look at everything. They influence everything else in the design. So the pressure fuel all the basic potentials of what it is to be in a body, of what it is to live out consciousness, of being a human being. They're essential, and they are always present. And when I say they're always present, it's not a matter of whether you have them personally in your design or not. As long as it is in the world, it is part of the aura of the world, and everybody gets in contact with it. So in looking at these pressure centers, it's something to understand that we are looking at a fundamental root of all human processes. The fundamental source of pressure is necessary to initiate all of these processes. And pressure isn't bad. I mean, it's one of those words that we associate sometimes, especially these days, too much pressure in the world, and we get under stress and we can't deal with it. We need pressure. So many fundamental processes, biologically, physically, I know another word for it. They are necessary. Excuse me. It's necessary that we have a certain amount of pressure. Our body works under pressure. The blood pressure that we have, the pressure that our heart brings to our circulatory system, the pressure of peristalsis as our digestion works. We have a lot of pressure inherently in our bodies. It's not bad. It's the way we deal with it. And anyway, another subject. So back to the overview, sorry. The 41st hexagram is the fuel, or it's the pressure for the abstract stream, the sensing circuit, the stream of feeling. And it's a stream that is uniquely human. It is the evolutionary and genetic material necessary for us to experience incarnation in a human form. Without this stream, the human evolutionary process would not exist. Not only are we speaking here of a fundamental pressure for a life process, but in particular to understand that it is not shared with any other form of life. This is a very specific pressure and a very specific stream, and it is directly associated with what we experience as being human. the 41st hexagram, as a codon in our genetic code, the only initiating codon. The 41st hexagram is, in this respect, the most important pressure in our evolutionary process, now and ever since we became Homo sapiens, or modern humans. The 41st hexagram is the trigger that brought us into the stage that we are in. And we are still in, and we are still heading towards completion. What is unique for us as human beings is the capacity to be able to feel and to conceptualize our feelings and to remember our feelings and experiences. This capacity leads to the need, the desire for experience. The desire for experience, to be able to feel and to manifest that feeling, is the human evolutionary process. It's what drives us from one experience to the next until we develop and change and progress through that process. Change and progress are the Gate 35, which is the end of that human experiential way. This is what we're driving towards. It also brings into play the nature of crisis. It tells us very clearly that the evolutionary process is rooted in crisis. Gate 36, change, Gate 35, and transitoriness, which is the channel between the two. The 41st gate carries with it this enormous potential for any kind of experience. This is the key to what it is to be human. It's a mechanic that is always about hunger. A human being is so different from its animal kin. They only have one kind of hunger. They have that basic predatory hunger to stay alive. Human beings, we have a duality in that. We have the material hunger, the hunger for survival, but we also have this other hunger, the deeper one, the human hunger for experience. It's the hunger to go to Mars and see what the rocks look like. What for? Oh, just to see what the rocks look like. The basic fuel, the fundamental fuel for the evolutionary process is this hunger to feel. The whole key to being an abstract being, whatever kind of abstract definition you have, is that the essential understanding about life is rooted in something very simple, and it's one step after another, and you don't repeat yourself. And like the 64th gate up in the head center, because there is so much potential information here, built into these gates is a mechanism that is ready to release the information or the experience only one at a time. This is the limitation of resources, but it's also the cycle of it. One step at a time. This 41 is experiential. It is in the collective abstract circuit, which is driven by the format energy of the 4253, which is the channel of maturation. And it is all about cycles. Experiences are beginnings, middles, and ends. And you don't go back. You can't ever go back anyway. Every time you have an experience, even if your mind is saying it's the same experience, it's never the same experience. You're never the same person from one moment to the next. And so part of built into this, it is releasing one at a time, and it's seeing that experience through to the end, because that's the nature of the cycle. That's the nature of this circuit. So the limitation of resources, which maximizes development of potential. If you have all these fantasies running around inside you, then you can diminish your potential. But if you focus your energy, and this channel, I said to you, design of focused energy, you focus in on one fantasy at a time, one feeling at a time. And then you move through that. And when that is over and the cycle is complete, you go on to the next one. This is the key to the abstract process. This is the key to the maximization of resources, the maximization of the potential. because the resources are always there. It's all held there in the 41. We don't have to panic and say there's never going to be another experience. I'm running out of resources. Everything is there, always, 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 always. So we don't have to have all these fantasies all the time. We don't have to dive into that and have the experience of the obsession, which is the potential here as well. You know, we can have one at a time. We can go through the cycle and we can go through the correct evolutionary process. I think I finished 41. Wow. Okay. So thank you. The grounding to gate 41 and is gate 31, the gate of leading and influence. And together they form part of the cross of the unexpected, which makes sense, really. You know, any new experience comes without an attachment to the outcome and so has the ability to bring something completely unexpected. The 31 and 41 balance each other in a way, you know, they're both collective, although, as I said at the beginning, one is logic and one is abstract. Logic likes to repeat and repeat and repeat and master things, make sure they're absolutely right and perfect, and only then will it release them into the collective. Whereas the abstract is like, been there, done that, want to do something else. It only wants to do something once, and then it will move on, and it becomes very restless if there's nothing new on the horizon. So this is the energy that we will be experiencing certainly over the next few days, but this is the start of the cycle. You know, this is the foundation of the new solar cycle. So this, in a way, it's something to be aware of through the whole of the cycle. So we'll, of course, be taking a more in-depth look at all of the lines as we go through Gate 41 over the next 6 days. I hope you will join me for that. I thank you very much for your time and for your interest as we go through these gates. 41 is so fascinating, isn't it? I mean, they all are. And every now and then you come up against one and it's like, whoa. Yeah, I've got 31 twice, which is the grounding energy, and I've got 41 three times. So this it's, as you know, a lot of you, when you're listening to them, when you've actually got the line and the gate, or the gate and the line, it has so much more meaning somehow when it's in your design. It helps you to know yourself, to know who you are in the world, to be able to be more aware of the conditioning that comes in. But also, if it's something you've got, then remember it's conditioning that you're pushing out there. So it can bring you that awareness too of how maybe you are influencing and impacting other people around you. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Thank you very much for being here. As always, love yourself madly as we go into this new cycle. I wish you all good things for this new solar cycle. And we're getting closer to 2027, of course, so, you know, buckle up. And as always, and very importantly, go gently.